it's pretty bad out here, and as a rule I never ride a bike in windy conditions. I just don't like it at all, especially since I was out a while back and a tree branch fell over the area I went along. But look how strong this wind is. It gives you an idea down further there when the branches are moving around how strong the wind is. But what surprised me at the moment is how well this little SX is handling the windy conditions. I can still ride along at 80, 90, 100 kilometres an hour. Sure, it's getting moved around on the road a bit because it's only a light bike at around 170 kilos, but the fact is it's handling it pretty good, and I can still, like I said, get up around that 100k mark and go along, and I'm not flat or anything like that. I'm just cruising at 100. I've been on bikes 200 kilos and they don't handle the wind any better, so surprisingly I was fairly impressed how it goes. And I'm not even running with a screen on, if you have a look now. And the reason being, I'm running my camera on the mount up here, see? And that's one reason the screen's been pulled off, and I was just curious to see how it'd run more like in naked form. It'd probably be better with the screen on, but I was just curious. But you can see now by the way these trees are moving around. That's why I picked a good spot clear away from trees, in case you're there talking and all of a sudden you're wearing a white box branch, and if that was the case, the party'd be over for you. So that's about it. We're going out to a place where I want to photograph an avenue of trees. Hopefully it's autumn here now and they should be at their peak, and I'll get out there with the camera, build off a few shots. But I just thought I'd pull up here and tell you just how well this little bike's performing, and running into a headwind and still being able to run along at 80, 90, 100 kilometres an hour, apart from being blown around a little bit from the strength of the wind. But it's not what you call a picnic day to be riding, and in most cases I would have just pulled the plug and went back home. Where I'm heading to, there's always a good run of trees there in autumn. Goes for about half a kilometre, and I've had a few cars there at times and taken them over there just for the thrill of doing that. And I think, seeing we're in mid-May, this is about the right time to do it, so let's keep moving. Oh yeah guys, and while I'm at it, I suppose might as well mention, I haven't been really happy how things have been going for responses to the clips I've put up, because I've put a fair bit of effort into putting these together, and I find that a few comment, and I appreciate the ones that comment, and I'm going to take notice of those ones now that comment and make a note of it. And also I notice I've got a few drifters that just come through, have their comment, go away, and you don't see them for 3 or 4 clips and they come back. So even I'm now going to, from now on, start a new play. I find now that anyone that comments, and I think that they're ones that sort of really want to come to the channel, they're not just filling in time, I'll comment back to those people involved. So I'll be taking note on that side. And the ones that just drift in every now and again and have their comment, you'll see now smiley faces come up, because, you know, when they drift in and out like that, I don't care if they come, go, stay, or what they do, because I'm not here to try to make a dollar. I'm here to give you a bit information, and, you know, if you're not happy with the information, well, you can go and listen to the other crap elsewhere. So I just thought I'd let you know in advance. If you see smiley faces or thumbs up or something comes up, you'll know I don't care if I talk to those people or not. So as far as that goes, if you're a regular watcher, you will know what's going on. And, you know, I have made a habit since I've ever been on the tube to answer everybody, unless they give me something stupid, and then I just delete and block them. But now I'm not going to waste my time coming in replying to someone that's only there after that, or a bit of information on the bike, and after I tell them about a bike, especially a Royal Enfield or anything like that, they get their information, don't even give you a thumbs up or thanks after it, and they buzz off. So they've got the big choice now. They'll be able to buzz off and find their information elsewhere. And I'm pretty sure they won't even find their information elsewhere, because I've had 20 of the bikes and the other people have had 1 or 2, and they know nothing compared to me. And I'll say it again, as far as I'm concerned, most of those blokes know nothing compared to me being on 20 Enfields, and 15 of those being classic 500s, or they're the ones I really know about. So I like it. I had a question the other day, a person asked me about, and I just sort of totally avoided him. Never seen him on the channel before. He has no interest in the channel. He's trying to find out what's wrong with his bike. And he can go to one of those ones that's going to offer him PayPal or Patreon or something like that. And, you know, if you want the info, go to them and pay for it. So as far as that goes, we'll get back onto this SX review, and I just thought I'd get that off my chest and let you know what's happening. Yeah guys, so I've now arrived at a place called Canowindra. Some call it Canowindra, but the locals call it Canowindra. I was just waiting for that Finnemore's truck to pass me because he'd been tailing me there for a kilometre back, and I figured the best idea, get off the road, let that B-double pass, and I could get back on the bike and come down here at a more leisurely pace where he was sort of moving a little bit quicker than what I think, the normal 50k speed limit. Now down here, this is just the main run into Canowindra itself, and it's not a bad little place to come over and have a little bit of a visit. What may surprise you, it's only around about 50-60 kilometres from where I live, and you would be surprised at the difference in temperature in this area here. So as it is now, we're just working our way through. Like I said, this is the 50 zone, and we're coming into a school zone now, and it's around about 2:45, I think it was, roughly, as I went through there, and these lights come on to warn you that you're in a school zone now, and that the speed limit through here is 40 kilometres an hour. So you have to be careful there, because sometimes they whip up in these areas speed cameras, or more importantly, highway patrol officers sitting down one end, and from 2:30 till 4 o'clock in the day, or in the afternoon, also in the morning, at school time, well, they're just sitting there waiting there to see how quick they can relieve you a few bucks. So, like I said, this is just the main run down here. We're not going right into the township itself, but next time I come through I might call in there and we'll just have a look at this quaint looking area where it's virtually like going up a street of what you'd probably drive up 100 years ago, because they actually make a few movies here. Over on my left there, that was a local park. We just parked, and that's where they have their balloon festival on an annual basis. But we're not worried about any of that crap today. What we're going up here is just up ahead. There's a crossroad. Turn right and you go into town, but I'll be swinging a left here. You can see it coming up now, a couple of cars there passing, and I'll be swinging around this corner, and I'm going down to photograph these trees, or this line of trees. Now it's autumn here in Australia, and while I'm there I'll give you a bit of a talk about 500 kilometres on this Suzuki Vstrom 250SX. So if you're an old hand to the channel, you know I don't mind getting out there with the cameras and photographing a bit of autumn here in Australia, or anything else I can point the camera at. And along here with the yellows, reds, greens and all that is this run of autumn trees. This is without a doubt the best run of trees around here that you could go to, and it's well worth the trouble to run 60 k's over just for the privilege of getting out here and firing the camera along it. So anyway, I've pulled over here and had a look at the bike now, and everything's working well on that side, so I thought I'd just do a quick 500 kilometre review on the bike. And here's a speedo look, and you'll probably see it now come up. So once again, what can I tell you about this bike? Well, I think it's improved a fair bit since I purchased the bike, and since then it's been going extremely well. I reckon from 300 kilometres up to the 500 mark now, I wouldn't be a bit at all surprised if it's actually smoothed down a bit in the vibes. It had a slight bit of vibe in the bar up to 300 and also in the pegs, but out there now on a day like this, I was out there cruising along at 100 kilometres an hour, and it was handling that side of the run really, really good. Now, I don't mind the riding position either, and then when I look at the mirrors, I was surprised how well or how clear they are to look out of. And I also found that this bike's capable of pulling a fair grade hill, not an actually steep one, but one that's sort of an incline that goes up over a period of 1 kilometre or something like that. I can swing over those at 60, I was going to say 60 mile an hour, but 100 kilometres an hour in 6th gear, and it runs along there at 100 kilometres an hour fairly effortlessly. And I was even surprised today when I was out there and there was a lot of wind there on the road, not counting the rider, but actual wind on the road, and it was blowing it around, but I was able to sort of hit that power, or don't know about power, but I was able to hit the throttle, and I've got 26 horsepower on tap, and if it got a little bit off line, I was able to use that throttle to sort of pull it back in line and stuff like that. Now, I've only really had one incident during the 500 kilometres, and I haven't put that video up yet when I dropped it on the dirt. But, I learnt something about it. The shape of this bike is a little bit difficult. If it goes down on the dirt, it's a little bit... Well, and honestly, I never got the bloody thing up. I tried to go half an hour to get the thing back up off the ground. Couldn't. Had to go out on the road and flag someone down and got it that way. But I'm just showing you now, once again, the colours of the trees here because, you know, I had a camera with me on the day and I was firing a few shots off, so I made the best of that. But if anyone's on the market wanting one of these for $64.90, they're just an outright bargain bike to buy at that price and very hard to beat, and it's really a smooth bike to ride. Only really two bad things wrong with it. The shock isn't a real crash shot at the back, and that windscreen would be one of the worst windscreens I've been on the bike. And you'll see now where I mentioned earlier, I'm running it without a screen on it regardless, so just run it like a naked effect up front. But overall, you know, now I've done 500 kilometres, where I've shown you earlier on. When I get out next time, I'll probably be a little bit more harder now on the brakes and see how they go, because I was looking at the brakes there, and the front disc is Bi-Brights. They look like they're the same ones that's on the Classic 350 Reborn, because I'll swing them back and forth, and I might take a photo of one to the other and show you on this clip and, you know, judge for yourself. But apart from that, I've found this bike, you know, like a bargain price buy for $64.90, and when I ordered it, I actually ordered orange and got the yellow, and I actually ordered it with the free top box and got nothing. But they do say the top boxes may be coming next month, sometime in the end of June. So we'll see what happens in that line, whether we get it that way. I've been worried about doing any petrol economy runs at the moment because, you know, my thoughts on that. If you worry too much about petrol, maybe you should just buy a push bike. But that's one way I look at it there. Other people are concerned about petrol. I don't care about petrol, buying bikes or nothing. If I want them, I buy the petrol. If I want the bikes, I buy the bikes. So that's as simple as that. So as far as this goes, I reckon instrumentation is all right to read. Like, it's probably not the best one I've seen, but, you know, like, you know, the best thing about it, I can look down and see what gear I'm in. So it's got a gear indicator there, and I can actually see it. And so far, it hasn't caused me any issues to want to whinge about it. So, you know, apart from that, you know, I think if you're on the fence and you're out there and you want to buy one of these bikes, I think this is a good entry-level bike for somebody that's just after a nice little 26 horsepower, 6-speed box. Clutch is good. Throttle nice and smooth there in that line. The, you know, combination of the tyres. I don't think the tyres are much good because I only went on that dirt once on the muddy section and landed on my tail. And I think later on I will swing to maybe more off-road type tyres and a couple of other things I've got planned for it. So as far as that goes, you know, like you get also the LED headlight. I haven't been out at night time to try it out on the headlight because I don't go much on riding around here much at night. So apart from that, like, you know, I think for somebody who just wants to get on the bike and commute this around town and go on good runs, by the time I get home, I will have clocked 200 kilometres on this run. And remember, the bike had left, it was around about 300 k's, and I estimated when I get home it'll be over 5. So, you know, that's not a bad afternoon run on one of these, and more importantly, you know, like, I'm here now, but I don't worry about throwing any more video after this, because my battery went flat on the GoPro, and I'd already chopped through couple of hours of clip, and you know, overall it just ran home really nice. I had no trouble whatsoever, and you know, it's just a nice little bike to ride. You know, if you said, oh, this is your favourite bike, Laura, no, it's definitely not my favourite bike. You know, I'm sort of biased towards Enfields because I like that old school look about riding one of these. But for a person who's just not thinking like I do and they just want a nice reliable bike at a good price, I think this one here is possibly one of the best value bikes around. And, you know, like, if it wasn't, I'd just tell you it was a heap of crap. So it wouldn't worry me. Only cost $64.90. I never paid $20,000 for it. So why have I got to worry about it? Couldn't care less, because I know one thing. If it was a heap of crap, I could just put it on Gumtree or Bike Sales or one of those, or maybe Marketplace. I don't know, too many scammers on Marketplace. But, you know, mainly Gumtree or Bike Sales, and I could cash it real quick and get a quick 5 and say, oh, well, I tried it was a heap of rubbish, I'm going to another bike now, that's how I think, and I would just go ahead and do something like that. But the fact is, if you're out in the market and you want something like one of these, I'm just telling you, I think it's a good bike for the price. Don't care what other people think, because I don't ride with other people, but riding by myself out there, I get plenty of time to think about to evaluate a bike. I found the gear shift's positive, and well, I wouldn't say too positive now, because I just have to still make a bit of adjustment to that gear shifter, because after all, remember, I did drop it on the dirt and then tried to pull the tail of it around and bent up the gear shifter while I was doing it because I couldn't lift the bike. And, I thought that 170 kilos was a bit of a drawback to me there. Now, prior to that, I'd been out in Enfields around on dirt roads and down tracks and in some really tight situations. It's 195 kilos. And the only thing I've learned out of this is between this at 170 and 195, all I can say, I've been extremely lucky where I've ridden bikes down dirt roads, on tracks, right off the main road, a few kilometres down there. And if those bikes went down on something like that, I would have been history, as simple as that. So, in fact, at the moment I'm looking around and I sort of found something where like a hand pulley winch and... I actually bought one of them, and I think I'll be there in the future. I'll carry it along with me and out there, and if it goes down and I can't get it up, I can just hook that hand job to the back of the bike or something like that and pull it up that way. And you might say, "Oh, why aren't you worried about damaging the bike?" Look, honestly, I couldn't care less. All I was concerned that day when the bike was on the ground was I couldn't get the bike up. And I'd have to walk back up along the road and flag some car down, see if somebody had come in and help me get the bike back up. Hopefully, if I can lure him in there to help me up, give him something for his trouble money-wise, and call it quits and move on from there. Well, that's all that was coming through my mind, because that was the first time I'd been in that situation where I'd had a bike on the ground and could not get the bike up. So as far as that goes, I'd learnt something from that one, and I think from now on, if I go out, like I said, I've ordered one of these sort of more like hand-tight winches, and if I can get there and get the bike a couple of feet off the ground, should it fall over, that should be enough for me then to get it from there. But I did find this Suzuki a really odd shape to try to get hand on and lift it up out of the, or lift it up off the ground. But when the other guy came along to help me, between the two of us, we lifted it up quite easy and got it out and stuff like that. But I'll have to put that clip up where it's laying on its back and go from there. But apart from that, I think a lot of us got to deal with how deep the motor sits up, or how high the motor is up, and how high it is up in that section where the tank is. And I probably had a fair bit of petrol on it on the day too, so you had, close on 3/4 of a tank in that too. So a few things went against me on that particular day, and I don't know why, but when the end wheel went down in the same mud pile, I was able to get the end wheel back up, but it might have been the saddlebag support at the back stopped it from going flat. But, I still think I would have got it up if it would have been the end wheel, where this was just an odd shape. But should it happen again later on and I get one of these winches on it, I don't care how I get the bloody thing up, as long as I get it back up. I don't have to rely on anyone, and, we'll go from there. So, once bitten, twice shy, and I learnt something from the experience of going down. And when I say going down, I mean going down on the bike. And apart from that, I reckon next time I'm out there, I'll be a little bit wiser on that one. And, it could save me a bit of problems than this idea of a hand winch, sort of, or pulley type winch. I reckon it could be all right, because it doesn't have to lift the bike up in the air. I only found it on eBay for about $33, and I was thinking to myself, it's supposed to be capable of lifting 180 kilos. Well, I don't want to lift 180 kilos. I just want to hook it up to the bike should it happen and pull it, say, a couple of feet off the ground, because after that, then the initial hard part of the lift up is gone and you can just get hold of it and then bring it up and stabilise it. So that was the plan with that one. So that's what I'm planning on doing. And like I said, if you got out there and on the off chance pulled it around, did a bit of damage, I don't really care much about that, because I can always pick myself up another bike. But I can't pick the bike up by myself, so I'm handicapped in that line. I don't ride with anyone, and I've got no interest in riding with anyone, and I'll still battle it on by myself. But I think I've got to take a little bit of security along there with me, and I think going down on this bike was a good lesson. And, if you can walk away and say to yourself you've learned a lesson, that's a plus. If you can walk away and say, I'll try again, I'd class that as stupidity. In this case, I think it was good on that line, and more importantly, for anyone that's got a bit of weight behind them, because I think I've dropped now to 75 kilos, and I feel a lot weaker now since I've been doing all this exercise, not saying I was strong in the first place, but I do find that I'm a bit down on lifting power. So as far as that goes, I've got to sort of compensate for this idea if I want to continue and ride along dirt tracks. And although all I am looking back at saying is some of those tracks I've been on rough, I've been what I'd class as extremely lucky, because if the bike went one way or the other, I'd be in deep shit. So apart from that, what I will be doing later on, and I'm not going to do it yet, I may do it when I get the Hunter, I might fit it with off-road tyres straight off. And this one here later on, see how things go. It might also be fitted with off-road tyres, which are more suitable for where I want to ride and stuff like that. But that's only a thought, so we'll see what happens. But the main thing is, we'll get back to this. If you're on the market and you want to buy one of these, a 6490, they're an extremely good buy. They really run well. They're virtually, this is a super smooth bike to ride compared to some of the crap I've been riding. It does everything it well. It's comfortable to sit in the seat and cruise at 100 kilometres an hour. It'll pull a good hill in 6th gear. And if you really need to it and get behind it and start revving it up, it'll sort of pick up pretty well. And, it's got a pretty good 6-speed box to go through it. So between the motor, gearbox, clutch, those three combos, and the wheels, I think 19 front, 17 rear, all of it sort of worked down pretty well. And, seat height's 33 and a bit, but it drops a little bit when you get on it. But it's not overpowering, so I don't think you'll worry too much about that. I also bought the low seat, but when I put the low seat on, I found it was a little bit harder to ride on. It was a little bit more firm. But, the only thing I could really knock on this bike, for one, if you were serious, you want a better rear shock, and maybe you want to do something with the front too if you're really desperate. And then apart from that, I think the most thing you'll be knocked by is that windscreen. Is really, you might as well pick it up and throw it out and use it as a frisbee or something like that, because it's really not much good as far as wind blocking goes. But before we go close on that one, I did buy a $35 eBay wind deflector and sat that on the screen, and believe it or not, that worked pretty good. So, I never had it with me today because I wanted to run my camera up that main support and just see what it was like to do a trip in open air running. And, I didn't find it a great deal different between it and riding the Enfield, although the Enfield, I think, gives a better clean run of open air compared to this one where it's a little bit high up front. So apart from that, that's about all I can tell you. I've just showed you the photo there with 500 clicks on it. So I've ridden at 500 Ks, and I've got a pretty good idea how it is. So I'd say if you're on the fence and you're thinking about one as a commuter, or you want to do some long distance running, this would really do it. And if you're not happy with 26 horsepower, open the wallet further and go for something 50. And you may be happy in that line, but you'll be going up for another 30 kilos at least in weight. And you'll go with all the problems that go with a heavier bike, where I think this one's quite heavy as it is. And I don't want to go up into a bigger one just for the sake of saying, oh yeah, I've got 50 horsepower. In fact, the more horsepower you get, the more trouble you get into, I find. So it's just like a powerful car. You can have one with, a couple hundred horsepower, or you can have one with 300 plus. And the one for 300 plus, you're always trying to test it to see what you can do with it. So, every horses for courses, and it's up to you. So all I'm here to tell you is it's a pretty good value one, and I'll get out here, throw a few shots of this bike I took there. Actually, I was here about a few years back when I had the Fiat of Bath. It was a white one, and I took it up against these trees then, and it really popped on it and really stood out, and that was the main reason I come over here to do these shots. And it was white with red striping on the side and red wheels. Really good looking little heap of crap. But I must admit the yellow Suzuki against this backdrop doesn't do much for it at all compared to, if I would have brought one of the other coloured bikes here, maybe the blue one would have looked all right, or even the Enfield. So, but the fact is, it was a test ride to see how the bike was running, and I can give you a good report on that one, and we don't worry about the colour, because if I would have got the orange one mightn't have looked much good at all up against this one, what you're looking now. So can't win them all. So once again, thanks for tuning in, taking a look, catch you later.